be clear about what this video is and what it isn't. This is not an offer. This is not a solicitation. I'm not quoting you terms or projecting returns. What I'm doing is explaining legal structure and a business model. In this video, I want to explain something specific, the legal structure behind Maat Legal, why we built it this way, and why that structure is what makes it possible for someone like you to participate in the growth of estate planning practices across the country without running into the legal and ethical walls that stop most people before they start. Let's start with the problem. In almost every state, there are rules about who can own a law firm. The short version is only licensed attorneys can have ownership interests in law firms. That rule exists for good reason, to protect clients and preserve professional independence. But here's what that means from a business perspective. Right now, we're in the early stages of what's being called the silver tsunami, the largest generational wealth transfer in history. An estimated $84 trillion is going to move from one generation to the next over the coming decades. And estate planning attorneys sit right in the middle of that transfer. Every one of those families needs legal guidance to move that wealth from one generation to the next. So you have this massive growing demand, and law firms at the center of it can't take on outside capital. You can't invest in them, you can't buy equity, you can't participate in their growth if you're not a licensed attorney in that jurisdiction. The door is closed. That's the wall. And it's the reason most legal practices stay small, undercapitalized, and completely dependent on one person doing everything, because traditional ownership rules cut off the most obvious path to growth, capital, and operational scale. So the question becomes, is there a structure that works within those rules, respects the ethics, and still allows outside participation in the business of running legal practices? The answer is yes, and it's called an MSO. MSO stands for Management Services Organization. An MSO is an operating company that provides non-legal business services to professional practices. Think staffing, technology, workflows, intake systems, back office administration, everything a practice needs to run other than the actual practice of law. The MSO and the law firm are separate legal entities. The attorney owns the law firm, the attorney makes all legal decisions, the attorney controls the client relationship. The MSO owns and operates the infrastructure the law firm runs on. Now, I didn't invent this model. I learned it from dentistry. If you look at how the dental industry has scaled over the last 20 years, this is exactly how they did it. Dental support organizations, DSOs, are MSOs for dentists. The dentist owns the practice and makes all the clinical decisions. The DSO provides the management, the systems, staffing, and the back office. That structure is what allowed dental practices to grow from single location offices into large, professionally managed networks, while keeping licensed professionals in full control of patient care. When I saw that model, I knew it was the right structure for legal. The same separation exists. There's the professional side, which requires a license, and there's the business side, which doesn't. The MSO sits on the business side. In legal, it's the correct model for building something scalable alongside law firms, because it works within the bar rules on ownership, not around them. So here's how this applies to Maat Legal specifically. Maat Legal is the MSO. We are the operating company. We own and operate the platform, what we call Maat OS, which is the proprietary operating system built specifically for estate planning. It handles intake, attorney drafting instructions, client communication, and administration workflows, all in one integrated environment. We also own and operate the support infrastructure around that platform, trained intake teams who answer phones, qualify prospects, and schedule appointments for our partner attorneys, trained paralegals who execute drafting instructions inside Maat OS. The PIL method, our proprietary intake framework, the personal family legal session and family administration session, our structured meeting formats for estate planning and for probate and trust administration, and the succession program, a pathway for established attorneys to transition their practices through our system. The attorneys we partner with own their own law firms. They maintain their bar licenses, their client relationships, and their professional independence. What they get from Maat is the operating system and the team underneath their practice, so they can focus on practicing law and growing their client base instead of building infrastructure from scratch. Now, here's the part that matters for this conversation. Because Maat Legal is the MSO, it's an operating company, not a law firm. It is not subject to the bar rules on law firm ownership. The MSO is a business. It provides business services, and that means participation in the MSO is not limited to licensed attorneys. This is the key. When you invest in a traditional law firm, you're buying into a professional practice, and in virtually every state, that's restricted to licensed attorneys. Full stop. But when you participate in an MSO, you're participating in the infrastructure company that supports those practices. You're on the business side of the equation, not the legal services side. That distinction is what makes this possible. And because an MSO can contract with law firms in any state, the model is not limited to one jurisdiction. Maat Legal can partner with estate planning attorneys in all 50 states. The operating system, the intake infrastructure, the paralegal teams, the workflows, none of that requires a local bar license because none of that is the practice of law. Now, you may have heard about alternative business structures, ABS models, which some states are exploring as a way to allow non-lawyer ownership of law firms. And in Arizona, they've already gone further than that. Arizona eliminated Rule 5.4 entirely, which means non-lawyers can now have ownership interests in legal practices in that state. That's a significant shift, and it tells you which direction the regulatory environment is moving. But here's what makes the MSO model different. We don't have to wait for every state to change its rules. We don't have to organize as an ABS and navigate in an experimental regulatory framework. The MSO structure works right now in all 50 states within the rules as they exist today. So instead of being locked out of a highly fragmented industry where thousands of small firms each operate as isolated islands, the MSO structure lets you participate in that infrastructure layer that connects and supports those firms at scale. And here's the other thing. The timing isn't just about demand. We're at a pivotal moment in technology. AI and agentic AI are changing what's possible in terms of how business operates, how workflows get executed, and how fast a platform can scale. Maat Legal has already built and proven its systems. The operating system works, the intake framework works, the workflows work. What AI does now is supercharge all of that. It lets us move faster, serve more attorneys, and handle more complexity without building everything from scratch the way we had to even a few years ago. So if you have a massive wealth transfer, creating unprecedented demand, a proven operating system that's already in the field, and a technology environment that's about to accelerate everything, that combination doesn't come around often. Remember the number I mentioned earlier, $84 trillion in generational wealth moving over the coming decades. The majority of American families are still underserved when it comes to estate planning. The demand is enormous and it's growing. And the traditional model, one solo attorney doing everything, simply doesn't scale to meet it. The MSO is how you build something that can. I want to be clear about what this video is and what it isn't. This is not an offer. This is not a solicitation. I'm not quoting you terms or projecting returns. What I'm doing is explaining legal structure and a business model so you understand the foundation of what we're building and why the MSO model is what makes strategic partnerships possible in this industry. If this resonates, if you understand what it means to build scalable infrastructure in a space that's historically been impossible to invest in, then the next step is to keep going. You've already completed the first part of the partner inquiry survey. The next step is to finish it. The remaining questions go deeper. They help us understand your background, what you bring to the table, and what you're looking for in a strategic partnership. This is where we figure out if there's real alignment between you and what we're looking for and what we're building. We're selective about who we work with, and we expect you to be selective too. That's the point. Click the link below, complete the second part of the survey. If there's a fit, we'll be in touch to continue the conversation directly. You've now seen how the structure works and why it matters. If you're the kind of person who sees what's coming and wants to be a part of building it, click the link below. Thanks for watching.